Circling back to what you mentioned previously about the importance of free speech with all of this, what do you make of Elon Musk's Twitter move? I think it's super interesting. He's clearly somebody who I do believe is uh, a supporter of free speech. He understands the importance of free speech. Yeah, let's give a pass to his Chinese factories at the moment because he has business decisions to make. But um, do you do you believe that this is something he recognizes? He recognizes the threat to the US, to humanity, that speech has been shut down, and that Twitter is a real focal point for this. Like, how important is this? Because part of me has like been pinning my hopes to his recent move that this is going to swing the pendulum back to more freer speech. But I don't want to put too much hopes on one individual.
I think that's an important comment, and I think your last statement is one of the most important. We often compare Bitcoin to TCP/IP.
Uh-huh.
On our last conversation, I know, I don't. At one point, I know it's probably coming. We talked about the evolution of TCP/IP actually didn't depend on any one person, but it did at various points depend on principled people fighting for certain rights. I gave the example of John Postel and the domain name system that could have been taken back and controlled by the United States. Elon, and I want to be careful here because Elon gets an outsized amount of attention because he is a change maker. He is the world's richest person. He has disrupted and changed so many industries. And when he came into Bitcoin, everyone ran off and were like, he's our savior. And then you see people walking around with fuck Elon t-shirts because he somehow betrayed us. I knew Elon when he was at PayPal. I've interacted with him at various times. He has an incredible sense of humor. He is an incredible engineer. He has an incredible sense of irony. And in fact, a big part of his life is based off, all things being equal, the most ironic situation is the most likely. I think part of this is a genuine reflection that he loves how Twitter gives him a sense of freedom and to bypass the short sellers, bypass the media, talk directly to a fan base. And I think he treasures that and believes that it's a goodness in society. But I'm making assumptions there. I know a lot of people who came to me and were like, Austin, you got to talk to Elon about his support of Dogecoin. And somehow, like, it was my responsibility to save the world from, investing in Dogecoin, right?
Well, at times it does rely on individuals.
My personal opinion, I think Elon is very aware of what he's doing with Dogecoin. I think he appreciates it for the joke it is. And the SEC sued him. This is just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
The SEC sued him for promoting Bitcoin. He is absolutely restricted from talking about his real opinions on Bitcoin, but he can make jokes about Dogecoin all he wants because the company holds none. And if people are dumb enough to believe in the most inflation turned up inflationary coin in the world, he views it as a lesson in radical self-awareness and radical self-sufficiency. He is a Burning Man burner at heart. And so he's like, if you don't do your research and you want to believe all this Dogecoin stuff, and he loves memes. So, you can look at his love of Twitter for all the same reasons. And when you love something and you have those types of resources, you want to protect it. You want to leave your mark on it. And I'm hopeful that he can help the health of Twitter. But I also have a tons of appreciation for what Jack has done and the thoughtfulness and the pressure that Jack has been under. And everyone likes to look for easy solutions, right? So when I built one of my startups, we were looking at, there was this game called Post Secret, if you're familiar. It was a real world game where someone started leaving postcards around the world and said, you can mail me your secret on a postcard. And it took off. And if you ever go into a library, look at Post Secret. You can find it on the web. The most heart-wrenching but beautiful pieces of art. People who constructed these, sometimes at the end of my bottle of medicine, I wish it would never end because I'm more empty inside than this bottle of medicine. Like, heartbreaking, but like people revealing their souls. And so when Frank Warren, who created Post Secret, he started collecting these, putting them in a book. He sold the books to support national suicide lines. He went and put it online. And the worst parts, what was a beautiful project, the worst parts of human behavior started coming out, and he took it offline. People would be sending in online versions of, I left her body at these GPS coordinates.
Oh,
And he just said, you know what? There's something authentic and beautiful about this. I'm taking it offline. I'm going to keep it on postcards because the worst parts of anonymity and pseudonymity and people trying to troll me come out online, and I just don't want it. So as technologists, we're like, put everything online. It can solve everything.
yeah.
But this was like a great example of something that was actually ruined by the ephemerality, by the anonymity, by the pseudonymity. And so by the same degree, we all love Twitter. Twitter has changed the public concept of a public square, but it also has come with a lot of downsides.
Peter doesn't love Twitter.
It has come with downsides.
It does.
Which we both suffered from. It affected my health when I was running Blockstream. I started feeling like an attack on Blockstream. I had a real hard time distancing the attacks on the company from attacks on me and it started to affect my happiness and health.
Done it to me. People won't know, but Jeff's my secret Twitter mentor. He gives me advice, and then, like a disappointed parent, a few days later, I ignore his advice and do something stupid. But
the same thing people do on Bitcoin too, because the idea becomes you, and then you defend your own yourself, your ego, when somebody attacks the idea, and that's pretty normal. So what the thing we said. No one can hurt your feelings without your ability to say, nobody can say anything to you that matters. Like, why do you let it matter? From some unknown source, like, how could, I just kind of go, how could that hurt?
I think what it is it can come down to volume. Like, the occasional thing is fine, but when you can hear the same thing over and over again, it's like, okay, have they got a point? Am I a dumbass? Well, actually, I've accepted that one. But
so it's just so you know, I had a bunch of people that love you because of the way you do that. You're no dumbass, but the way that you open up that conversation and call yourself it's a huge reason for your following. So yeah, people say that to you.
It's also useful sometimes. It's also useful because it's a mirror to question yourself, and I'm okay with it. Actually, in the end, it comes down to productivity. Michael Saylor said, he said a brilliant thing to me last time I spoke to him. It's all about focus. Where are you focused? Where's your energy? Where are you productive? And actually, this is the most productive thing I can do. I don't think I'm the best interviewer. I think I have some good questions, but I somehow have ability to get good people together like you two to have this conversation that can go out to thousands, tens of thousands of people, and that's a productive use of time.
So when I coach startups, we talked about this as the density of intensity.
Okay.
And I said the scarcest resource you have as a startup is focus. And if you think about your job as directed energy, you have to choose. Do you want to be a flashlight or a laser beam? Right? Because your job is to break through some barrier. Some barrier of market acceptance, some barrier of technology, some technical barrier you need to break through. And do you want to be doing it with a flashlight, pointing a flashlight at a steel thing? Or do you want to be the laser that actually has a chance to punch through?
Yeah.
And it's only once you actually punch through and you're able to increase the size or the scope, the diameter of your laser, do you actually build a bigger hole and you have the energy to actually take on bigger battles. But initially, if you're trying to do that with a flashlight, it's never going to work.
Yeah. Also, the whole old cliche of the man on his deathbed. What do you wish? I wish I'd work less. I think we can add into that now. I wish I'd been on Twitter less. It's fascinating because I've lost time to family. My daughter, she's like, what are you doing on Twitter? Now I've told her I'm off Twitter. She's like, is it still on your phone? Like, she recognizes the impact. So productivity, use of time, like time and Bitcoin are both scarce resources. How do you best use them? Bitcoin, I'm okay with that. I've managed that. Now, how best use the time we have? And we all have a diminishing amount. It's a scarce resource. Yeah. And do I want to do productive things? Do I want to do things that makes me happy? Do I want to do things that make my family happy? So a lot of it's down to productivity. Actually, also personal growth. I actually find Twitter has a negative impact on personal growth. I think it can turn people into absolute pricks.
When I changed my opinion about Twitter and I changed my own habits around it, I was able to find incredible resources where I'm able to tap into Twitter to network with subject matter experts, to tap into a global, kind of consciousness or global expertise on certain topics that I would never be able to have access to before. But I have totally anonymous Twitter accounts that I use for that.
Huh.
And I have multiple devices, and some of my devices don't have any of my accounts.
Interesting.
And so for me, I've found quite the opposite. I've met so many incredible people on that platform. Now met them personally, but connected on that platform. But I might only go on once a day.
Yeah.
I might, and I try. I can't get through all of this stuff, but I try to. But and why? Because I need to focus my time on more important things. So
Yeah.
I'm not. It doesn't drive me. It doesn't fulfill me to say, okay, I have to do this. Have to do this. Have to do this on this. I use it, but as a tool to meet people all over the world and some incredible and learn things too.
Well,
It's
you
been
and I met through Twitter.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
I can't remember. You reached out to me.
Yeah. We met through Twitter.
We met through. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
look,
like how do you value that?
oh no,
Yeah.
I will be back
Yeah.
on it in a different way.
Yeah.
But you have to have that moment to escape, consider it, personal growth, reflect, and go back. But circling back, as we all recognize, it is an important tool. So it's important that it defends free speech.
So can I jump into the
Yeah.
Elon conversation and from a
Yeah. What's your perspective?
so nobody knows why he's doing it, but I do believe he believes in free speech.
Yeah.
I do believe he understands the problem at the monetary level, at the policy level. But a lot of his businesses rely on the monetary level like it is. And that creates the wealthiest person on the planet and the most powerful person and the most interact. And now you think about the wealthiest person on the planet owns a satellite network that will be a communication, that owns an energy network and automotive, and moving into a robotic network that knows all the same things that I know about where technology is going. In fact, he builds his business by projecting what he can deliver you 2 or 3 years and selling you this vision and then charging you today for it. That's how he builds all his businesses. And all of these businesses is now in communication channels. What do you think that could look like, the risk to one man holding that much control over all of these things and influence over us that turns and that's the thing.
He could be the dark overlord.
He could be fantastic, but trusting a system on one man's opinion who could change their mind is a really bad system. And so in that piece, I know he's a bit older and he hasn't sold, but if he understands all of this same thing the way that we do, then I find it disingenuous to talk about Dogecoin because we won't be a multiplanetary species if we have Dogecoin. we will blow ourselves up.
Well,
So I find it's completely disingenuous just to say we have to be a multiplanetary species, but I'm benefiting from a system, and all of the West wealth and power is benefiting from a system that is not a free market system, that has negative externalities to everybody else, and I'm not going to advocate for the right system. And so that is my thing specifically with Elon, and it just kind of just reinforces the whole thing. Don't meet your heroes. Don't idolize people. Because Bitcoin doesn't care. It doesn't care about me. Doesn't care about you. It just keeps on doing the job, and it doesn't allow any single person to have that much control.
Well, that was one of the great observations during the week, was that he buys $3 billion in stock, in Twitter stock, and ends up with a board seat to exert his influence over it. Michael Saylor's bought $3 billion in Bitcoin. He can't exert his control over consensus rules.
And Michael Saylor's influence grows based off his advocacy, grows based off the reputation. I think could continue to grow based off potentially products that MicroStrategy delivers, or investments they make in the open source community, or expansions they make into Bitcoin's functionality beyond just being owners and hodlers. Um, and I think those are well deserved, kind of meritocracy based investments. And I would not put it past Elon to have very similar ambitions for Bitcoin as well. If you start thinking about, Bitcoin in a grid, Bitcoin in robotics, Bitcoin in power, compensation, or Bitcoin in abundant power systems, in dealing with some of the inequities in grid payments and distribution and storage of energy, when you start to have abundant solar and issues around transfer or recharge. So there are so many potentials for Bitcoin to solve some of the very real issues that align with some of his goals of helping slow down the destruction of this planet, in his view. And many people, based off climate, helping extend the window that we have to get to another planet. Um, there's so many things that Bitcoin actually aligned and support that mission. But to Jeff's point, if they depend on one person controlling the entire system, and it depends on perpetuating a lie, we just have to assume that externalities and other incentives put any reliance on one person at too important of a role, and Bitcoin should be fighting against that. He's never made any secret. He come out very publicly and said, "I was late to the Bitcoin game," right? Like, you know, we knew a lot of the PayPal investors. I raised some money from some of the PayPal investors. I knew them back in their day when they were working on PayPal. Um, we were working on eCash at Zero Knowledge, so we spent a lot of time with other people working on payment systems like PayPal. Um, and these people weren't dumb, weren't ignorant to Bitcoin. But Elon has said he ignored it for so many years because his main priority was Tesla and SpaceX.